Hi everyone, and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Megan Dang and I'm a type 1 diabetic, and today for this video I thought that I would talk about being a young adult with type 1 diabetes. So in a few weeks I'll be turning 21, which made me start thinking about how I'm in this new kind of phase in my life with diabetes. I'm kind of transitioning out of being a kid and a teen with diabetes into being a young adult and managing it completely on my own. And I thought that this would be a good topic to discuss on the channel because I feel like a lot of other people are going through this transition period, and it might be helpful to feel like you have others going through it with you and kind of start up a conversation about what we're all experiencing. So if you have any questions or comments or recommendations of your own, please make sure to leave it down below, and thanks for watching. So I've been reading a lot online about how this young adult time period that we're experiencing is really crucial in setting ourselves up for good diabetes management in the future, because it's kind of our important time period that we're going through a lot of changes. This includes maybe getting off the healthcare of your parents, starting to order supplies on your own, switching doctors, and all these other things. So I actually read online that only 17% of early young adults, so this is ages 18 to 25, with type 1 diabetes meet the current recommendations for glycemic or glycemic control. So this is kind of a daunting fact, and I thought there's a lot of reasons why a lot of people aren't meeting it, I guess, and that's because I feel like this is a really tough period in our lives. So yeah, I'll just talk about some different categories I thought are important. If you want to see the exact time periods of when I talk about it, check the description down below. Okay, so the first topic that I'll be discussing is getting a new endocrinologist when you turn 21. With my doctor's office, I'm not sure how it works for everyone, but once you turn 21, you're no longer allowed to see him anymore. And this endocrinologist I've actually been with since I was diagnosed, which was back in 2004. So he's actually like family to my family because we're so close with him and he's been there for us for so long. So getting a new doctor is kind of a sad transition and change in my life that I'm going through, but he made it a lot easier and simpler because he actually gave me a referral to another doctor, so it wasn't that much work finding a new endocrinologist. However, finding a new and good and right-fitting endocrinologist for you is really important. So you should really do your research when going out and finding one for you when it's time for you to change. When it comes to adult endocrinologists versus child ones, I've heard adult ones are much less hands-on, and it's really your responsibility to take care of your diabetes and manage it and figure out what to do. And they're more there just to help you with your questions and delivering your lab results and things like that. Versus children ones are much more hands-on and want to figure out ways to combat your issues and things like that. But when transitioning into adulthood, you need to figure out ways for you to take control and for you to think about what kind of assistance you need. So it's much more your responsibility as you get older with different endocrinologists. The second topic I'll be discussing is dating with diabetes. So a lot of people when they're younger experience dating. They meet new people and get to know people because it's time to do that. And I thought I'd kind of talk about how diabetes plays a role in all of that. So if you've seen on my channel before, which you might have, I was in a long committed relationship for a while, and I didn't actually know about how diabetes plays a big role, just because being in a committed relationship, you develop comfortability with your partner and you teach them about your diabetes and you feel safe with them. And it's kind of just a bond that you share as you're together, which is a really good experience that I learned from being in one. But now that I'm no longer in one and I'm out there kind of experiencing dating, I realized that it's really quite different when it comes to diabetes, which I didn't realize while I was in a relationship. So I was reading online this blog from this girl, and she talked about her recommendations when it comes to dating with diabetes. And she said that it's up to you to decide when to tell someone you have diabetes. You might feel like you want to keep it quiet on the first or second date, especially if you don't know if you'll see that person again. Or you may decide to be more open about your diabetes from the start, especially before something like an insulin dose or treating a lower high glucose level needs to happen during the date. However, it's most important to be comfortable with your diabetes first, because it can be hard to open up and share about it with someone else. So I think that this is really good advice when it comes to dating with diabetes. You should do whatever you feel comfortable with, but I guess I'll share what I personally do. I don't hide it when I go out on dates. As you guys probably know, I'm not embarrassed by my diabetes or anything like that. I just don't think it's that big of a deal. But I also am not super blunt about it and like showing off my pump and stuff like that. I kind of just, if I'm out with somebody, I just bolus discreetly, and if they happen to ask, then I'll explain it. And I also feel like diabetes probably would come up personally for me, just because it's something that's important in my life. And when you're getting to know new people, you're usually talking about your interests and what your background is and things like that, and diabetes kind of just naturally comes up because it's important to me, I guess. So I would definitely just do whatever you're comfortable with. For me, it's talking about diabetes usually if it comes up naturally, just doing what I do as if it was any other thing. And I find that most people in my age group don't know a ton about diabetes. They know a lot of people know about type 2 diabetes, but not a lot of people know about type 1. So educating them could be a fun conversation to have also. So yeah, that's my advice when it comes to dating with diabetes, and overall, not just dating, but I guess just meeting new people when you're young and in your early adulthood phase. The next topic I'll be talking about is going out with type 1 diabetes. So as I said, I'll be turning 21 soon, and I thought it would be interesting to kind of talk about how alcohol plays a role when going out with diabetes. According to, I think, JDRF, moderate amounts of alcohol may cause blood sugars to rise, and excess alcohol can actually decrease your blood sugar levels, which can be dangerous for people with type 1 diabetes. And they also recommend that people with diabetes should only drink while eating food. Eating food can be really beneficial in helping regulate your blood sugar levels, as long as you're continuously bolusing and everything as needed. Beer and sweet wine contain carbohydrates and may raise blood sugar. People may overeat when drinking alcohol, which can also increase your blood sugar, and you should always wear a medical alert piece of jewelry that says you have diabetes. So I think that this is all really good advice. Some piece of advice that I would add would be to make sure you always have a buddy kind of system and adhere by that. When going out, I always make sure at least somebody in the group knows that I have diabetes, which basically all of my friends do, so it's not that big of a deal. But it's more important that they know like the basics, what good blood sugars are, what bad blood sugars are, what to do in the case of emergency, where my Skittles are in case I need it, or low blood sugar treatments and things like that. I'd also recommend that you wear your continuous glucose monitor whenever drinking or going out with diabetes, because sometimes if you're drunk or you're drinking or having fun, you might forget to test your blood sugar, and it's kind of just a burden to do that. So just having your continuous glucose monitor on and calibrated can really convenient when it comes to going out and having fun with diabetes. So next up is living alone with diabetes, which I feel like a lot of people in their young adult phase start to do. I feel like nowadays not as often people live alone. People usually live with roommates or housemates and stuff like that, just because things are so expensive now. But I thought that just kind of living alone is a new experience, especially when you have diabetes. So when I first moved out of my house when I was 18 and went to college, I was in the dorm. And although that was a big transition, it wasn't that crazy just because there was somebody always in the room with me. So I always had that security of if anything goes wrong, I have somebody for backup. But actually living completely alone is probably really difficult, especially with diabetes, because it can be scary in case you go low and something happens and nobody's there. I personally haven't lived completely alone yet, so I don't have a ton of advice on this subject. I have housemates, so I always am able to have backup in case anything goes wrong. But if you're living alone or even with housemates and making that transition, you should definitely make sure people around you know about your diabetes and that you're always stocked up with juices, tablets, candy, and things like that in case of any low blood sugar. And also just your diabetic supplies, make sure that you stay up to date about all of that. But if anybody has any advice of their own about living alone with diabetes, please leave it down below. And then finally, I thought I'd just talk about building a support system, especially when you get older. So as I've talked about a few times on my channel, diabetes is a very isolating disease. Sometimes you can feel really alone in this because there's just not a lot of people in our age group that go through this that we feel like we can connect to. So it's really important to build a support system of, I guess, trying to find diabetics if you can, so that you can feel more included, but also just making sure that people around you know what you're going through and know how to help you, and know that just having people that you know are there for you can be really beneficial when it comes to having diabetes, especially when you're getting older, because it can feel more and more alone. So I'm really lucky that I have good friends around me. I'm at a school that I love in a city and have activities that I like to do, and I'm always doing it safely with my diabetes and making sure people around me are supporting me. So yeah, that's the whole video. Sorry if it wasn't super informative. These are kind of just my experiences that I thought I'd talk about on this channel, just because I feel like it's important to make us feel like we have a community of people that are going through the same things. If you have any of your own things you want to add, please make sure to leave it down below. And thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next time. Bye!